1997. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I still remember the first time I saw the Crusty Demons video. I was like,
Motocross in the mid-1990s was a world of strict contracts and controlled images. Riders chased factory rides. Sponsors protected their investments. Then two filmmakers aimed their camera at the wrong people. Riders with nothing to lose. Riders the industry couldn't control, couldn't clean up, and couldn't stop. What they filmed didn't just capture jumps, it captured a rebellion already boiling over. One videotape dragged that rebellion into the open, and the sport changed forever.
A big influence in changing the whole motorcycle culture and way of life.
The video landed at the exact right time. Motocross in the 90s operated on a specific system. Winning on the track meant factory contracts, appearance bonuses, and a polished public image. The sport was ruled by writers like Jeremy McGrath and Jeff Emig.
There were multiple times that a picture of McGrath was on the wall, and I'm hitting a speed bag, and it's like, not this weekend, motherfucker.
They weren't grinding for rides. They were already on top. Young, famous, and making more money than most people their age knew what to do with. Winning races was just part of the equation. The rest of it happened off the track. Private jets like Havasu, speedboats, crazy parties that blurred together before flying back to the race next weekend. That wasn't reckless behavior, that was just normal life at the top of the sport in the 1990s. And they didn't stop riding when the races ended. When the season slowed down, all that momentum followed them into the vast deserts of Southern California. No rules, no officials, no cameras, big natural jumps, long run-ups. No points on the line, just riders trying to one-up each other for fun. That kind of riding had always existed. Riders had always gone out to the hills and desert to test themselves, but you won't find it on film. Camera crews didn't follow them out there. Factory contracts often prohibited it. Riders had media clauses, sponsors worried about insurance. The sport's image was carefully managed. Showing this raw, unfiltered side was a risk they wouldn't take. And that's where the outsiders came in. John Freeman and Dana Nicholson wanted to make films about action sports. Freeman had already directed a snowboarding film in 1991 called Creatures of Habit. That project taught him a critical lesson. Audiences didn't just want competition highlights. They wanted access. They wanted to see the real lives of the athletes when the cameras were supposedly off.
Pretty much hate snowboarding these days and wish it would go on a downhill slope, and wish everybody would stop snowboarding, and all the people who want to start, don't even try it.
Freeman saw how that raw, unfiltered style created a stronger bond with the audience. He and Nicholson knew this approach could work for motocross. The established brands were too cautious to show the true culture. Freeman and Nicholson saw that caution as their opportunity.
Show us all this crazy stuff that he would love to do, play riding his, with his motorcycle, and it was always going on every weekend.
We did a lot with Emic and MC and the racers and all that crap. I mean, freestyle motocross didn't exist.
They had a clear goal: film what the industry was too afraid to show.
Those dudes would roll up and people would literally turn white, they were so scared, the riots happening, cop cars, Australia, cop cars getting lit on fire,
Western Australia,
Perth was the gnarliest event to ever happen to this day. We went out and built some jumps, started doing freestyle motocross, Crusty Demons of Dirt, for a show in Australia, and thousands of people show up to a field, thousands of people.
The filmmakers looked elsewhere. They found their stars in the sport's underground. This was a world of privateers and weekend warriors. These riders operated on a different system. For them, a factory contract wasn't the goal. It was a fading dream. They funded their own racing through local prizes and contingency payouts. A top 10 finish could mean groceries or new tires. Sponsorship was scarce, often just a stack of free parts. They rode with a different kind of pressure. Not the pressure of $1 million contract, but the pressure of rent. Every crash had a real cost. This financial reality shaped their riding. They couldn't afford to play it safe. Taking big risks on film was a calculated move. It was a chance to build a reputation outside the traditional system. A single viral stunt could lead to a needed parts deal or an invite to a paid exhibition. The film crew offered that chance, so they sent it. When you played Crusty Demons of Dirt for the first time, it didn't feel like a polished broadcast. It felt like a raw transmission from somewhere you weren't supposed to see. The picture quality was grainy, filled with the static and color bleed of a copied VHS tape. The editing was frantic, cutting from jump to jump without pause. There was no formal narration to explain what you were seeing. Instead, the audio told the story. The roar of bikes was mixed loud with punk and metal tracks. You heard the riders yelling, the crew laughing, the sudden gasp of a crowd when a landing went wrong. It created a feeling of pure chaos. The jumps were different too. They weren't clean ramps on a track. They were jagged lips carved into desert hillsides. The riders attacked them with a reckless speed we hadn't seen before. It looked dangerous. It looked real. Between the riding, the film showed the world around it. It wasn't a glamorous lifestyle. It was beat-up trucks, dusty campsites, and riders working on their own bikes. It showed the unvarnished freedom they were chasing, with all its rough edges. This wasn't a commercial. It was a document. We were introduced to a whole new slew of riders. Mike Metzger, Brian Deegan, Brian Manley, Mike Healy, Rich Taylor, Denny Stevenson, Tommy Clowers. It was sensory overload. And then it went further. The film pushed the idea of consequence further than anyone expected. It built one of its most legendary segments around an unknown rider, Seth Enslow.
And he had these like old polyester bell bottoms on with just a huge collared polyester shirt and this 1965 Chevy old pickup truck.
This section didn't just show a jump. It showed the entire reckless calculus behind it. The edit makes you a participant. You see the massive dune first, a silent challenge. Then you meet Seth. His riding style is raw and his commitment ignores consequences. As the music builds, he attacks the hill 5th gear pinned. He comes off the face completely wrong, defying physics. For a suspended moment, the bike seems to hang against the sky with no earth below it. The impact is violent, a total disappearance into a massive explosion of sand. The footage itself becomes part of the story. It was the kind of clip you rewound immediately, sharing it with friends to ask, did he just survive that? The aftermath was just as shocking. Beaten and bloody, Enslow refused medical help, shrugging off injuries that would hospitalize anyone else.
Just wanted to go for the biggest jumps. I think the big thing was starting to film with Dana for the Crusty videos for part 1. We'd go find a jump and that jump was big, 3rd gear, you know.
Filmmaker Dana Nicholson captured the scene's absurd danger with a blunt, now famous line. He told Enslow, "You got some serious problems you need to work out with yourself." The segment didn't end with a heroic celebration. It ended with a crude, defiant joke, a bare backside aimed at the camera. This was the film's ethos in one sequence. Skill mattered less than sheer audacity. It was a direct rejection of every sanitized, sponsor-friendly image in motocross. That is how Crusty Demons of Dirt took over. It showed a level of writing and a California attitude that felt new. We'd never seen anything like it. The video sold out of shops almost immediately. Kids taped copies for their friends, magazines started writing about these new riders. For us, Crusty became required viewing. It was the standard. You watched it to see what was possible. You watched it to get amped up. It defined an entire phase of riding culture. Crusty 1 was such a huge success that a sequel was inevitable. Crusty 2 arrived, promising more. It delivered. The same crew returned, pushing further. The film doubled down on the formula of raw crashes and defiant attitudes. A key moment featured Seth Enslow again. This time, he attempted a massive dune jump. He came up short. The crash was brutal. His bike landed directly onto Jeremy McGrath's parked practice bike. The image was shocking, a symbol of the underground scene colliding with the polished factory world. And again, Seth survived, and acted like it was nothing. By the time part 2 wrapped, it was clear they weren't chasing a sequel. They were chasing escalation. After Crusty 1 and 2, Freeman and Nicholson needed new blood for part 3. The success of the first 2 films created a demand for bigger stunts and new faces. The landscape was shifting. Riders were now chasing fame through video parts, not just race wins. To keep their series relevant, the filmmakers had to find the next generation. They found it in 2 riders who represented the sport's future. Carey Hart was sleeping in his van, funding his riding by welding. He was about to change freestyle motocross forever with one trick. The other was a 13-year-old amateur champion named Travis Pastrana. His raw talent was obvious, even then. Crusty 3 ignited the defining rivalry in freestyle, Travis Pastrana versus Brian Deegan. Pastrana was different. He was a clean-cut kid from a racing background, but his riding was radically fearless. His age made his fearlessness shocking. The contrast created a natural tension with the established, rebellious riders around him. The crew headed to a notorious spot in Beaumont, a jump that Brian Deegan and Nick Cotty had built themselves. It was a reputation maker, a steep, poppy lip with a short landing. Many riders had eyed it and decided against attempting it. For Travis Pastrana, that reputation was the point. He saw it as a direct challenge. His mindset was simple. If others walked away, that was his reason to go. He sized up the jump and committed with zero hesitation. The landing was clean. Brian Deegan watched this happen and felt it immediately. As the jump's creator, he knew exactly how gnarly it was. Seeing a 13-year-old kid stick a landing he'd built hit different. His competitive fire ignited. Deegan later described the feeling as pure competition.
I was always in a battle with Travis Pastrana, he was another icon of the sport.
He couldn't let a rookie own his jump. He took his own run and stuck the landing. This sparked an immediate competitive edge between them. Two riders pushing harder, trying bigger moves on the same dangerous terrain. The pushes for bigger air and crazier tricks ended when Pastrana crashed and broke his wrist attempting another run. That day was a turning point for both of them. He recognized Pastrana's raw talent. He also saw Pastrana's clean-cut, all-American image.
Quickly, were y'all friends, but just, or were you like, nah, I gotta get that guy?
Honestly, the moto mentality was you kind of like hated your competition.
Yeah.
That was moto mentality. For whatever reason, it took me many years to get over that once I went to X Games. Because at X Games, everyone kind of cheered everyone on. And I think the tricks were so gnarly that you didn't want to really see people crash and get hurt. So I changed my focus after many years of competing with Pastrana. At first, I really didn't like him because he beat me, you know. I didn't like that, and I hated how he always would win, and I'd try so hard to win and risk my life to try these tricks, and every so often I would beat him, but it was rare, and so when he ended up winning, and doing all these crazy tricks, and the night of the double backflip, I stand there and watch that, and I knew my career was done.
This image was highly marketable to a mainstream audience. Deegan understood this created a clear opportunity. The media and fans love a clear story. They want defined characters. Deegan made a strategic choice. He'd position himself in direct opposition to Pastrana's persona. If Pastrana was the sport's relatable hero, Deegan would become the defiant anti-hero. He leaned into a darker, more aggressive identity.
But Deegan was like, all right, I'm not quite good enough at racing. He's good. What do people want to see? Why is skate doing so good? Why is snow doing so good? And he actually looked at it as a business perspective. So he has this metal militia, total world domination, all this stuff. And I didn't get it at the time, but it was funny because he was calling me a sellout. Oh, look at this sellout. Yeah. Oh, thumbs up, goody two-shoes, straight A student. When he was really the sellout. He was the one trying to make money, and I was just the one having fun.
This was the birth of the Metal Militia brand. That deliberate, rebellious identity connected powerfully with fans. It built a dedicated community.
In Tilly's, in Zoomies, in Macy's, in Dillard's, like we created a worldwide movement. And yeah, Travis was a good guy. That's cool. He had his own thing. We had the Metal Militia. It's Dogtown and Z-Boys. It's a documentary that one day will be told. And it was such a gnarly lifestyle. And it was real, dude.
That community built a merchandise empire. The Metal Militia brand made Brian Deegan a millionaire. Crusty Demons of Dirt 3 Aerial Assault held its world premiere at a Hollywood theater. The event erupted into a full-scale street riot. Police were called to disperse the crowd. This incident immediately generated press coverage, sparking debates about the new motocross culture's influence. The reactions from studios and venues was instant. They saw the event as a real security threat. For fans, this public backlash only validated the film's rebellious spirit. It proved the culture had moved from the desert into the mainstream consciousness, and it was not asking for permission. Freestyle motocross achieved escape velocity in the late 90s. Riders became household names. Their influence spread beyond the track. You saw it in what kids wore. T-shirts shifted from factory racing teams to brands built by the riders themselves. This clothing wasn't about fashion. It was a declaration of allegiance. Fans weren't just wearing logos. They were choosing sides in a new cultural war. This demand created an entire ecosystem of videos. New production crews emerged to document the phenomenon. They captured the same rebellious energy, but from different angles. Some focused on raw, uncut riding. Others blended motocross with punk and metal soundtracks, creating a distinct subgenre. Even major brands took notice. When Jeremy McGrath freestyled to a punk track in a mainstream Fox video, it signaled a major shift. The underground was now visible to everyone. The culture needed real-world stages. Contests began to formalize the chaos. In 1996, an event at Castaic Lake became a benchmark. It was loosely organized, filmed with handheld cameras, and felt more like a gathering than a professional contest. But it demonstrated a clear demand. Riders wanted to compete head-to-head, and fans wanted to watch. Television saw potential in that demand. In 1998, ESPN agreed to broadcast a freestyle event. The decision faced internal resistance. Network executives were cautious, opting for a low-risk time slot. They treated it as an experiment. The ratings surprised them. A dedicated audience was waiting. This led to the ultimate platform, the 1999 X Games. The sport was now on a national stage. The pressure was immense. Riders responded with unprecedented creativity. Mike Jones attempted a jump blindfolded, a stunt that seemed to define the limit of daring. Then Travis Pastrana redefined the limit. After winning gold, he returned for a victory lap. He wore a life vest, aimed his bike at a San Francisco bay, and launched off a makeshift ramp. The bike sank. Pastrana swam ashore. The backlash was immediate and severe. ESPN was furious about the unauthorized stunt. Environmental agencies investigated. Pastrana forfeited his prize money, but the crowd's reaction was unequivocal.
Until I hit that water. Due to the nature of the stunt, the management of ESPN determined it was irresponsible and decided not to show it. He keeps his gold medal, but the prize money goes to salvaging the bike, and part of the money will go to the Save the Bay Foundation.
They celebrated the defiance. The stunt dominated sports headlines, proving freestyle's power to capture the mainstream spotlight. This visibility transformed the culture into an industry. The Crusty Demons evolved from a video series into a touring live show. They sold out arenas, proving fans would pay to see the chaos in person. This rapid commercial rise created tension. Traditional sponsors and factory racing teams viewed freestyle as a liability. They saw it as a dangerous sideshow that threatened the sport's professional image. The criticism failed. It often had the opposite effect. Media condemnation and sponsor disapproval didn't slow the movement down. For the riders and their fans, external pushback wasn't a deterrent. It was a validation of their rebellious identity. The next breakthrough came from a simple question. What if a rider just threw the bike over backwards? Carey Hart decided to find out. He trained on a BMX bike first, launching into a foam pit. This method was rare for motocross in 1999. Most riders practiced new tricks directly on dirt. His attempt at the 2000 Gravity Games was not a sure thing. The ramp was untested. The speed was a guess. This wasn't a polished stunt. It was a public experiment. Hart committed.
Man, I don't know, man. That is the whole next level, man. We pretty much done all the other tricks, and the backflip is the next level. If people are gonna keep doing it, that just brings our sport to a whole new level, and it's really insane to be doing backflips on 250-pound dirt bikes.
That's crazy.
The rotation was slow, almost too slow. He barely pulled it around. He crashed, but the bike flipped, and that changed everything. A debate started instantly. Did a crash count? Hart proved the rotation was possible. That was the point. He showed every other rider the barrier was mental, not physical. 2 years later, Mike Metzger landed the flip cleanly. The mystery was gone. Now, it was a technical challenge. Hart's crash attempt made Metzger's success inevitable. The ceiling vanished. Riders spun the bike 360 degrees. They attempted double backflips. Each new trick traced back to that moment in 2000. Hart didn't perfect the flip, but he erased the word impossible, and that changed everything. But all of this started with a simple idea: filming dirt bikes hitting massive jumps while capturing the culture around it. Everything freestyle became traces back to that videotape. For the riders and fans who lived through it, Crusty Demons wasn't just entertainment. It was a blueprint. It inspired people to move west, to start brands, to build careers around riding. For a moment, the scene felt small enough that the people on the tapes didn't feel untouchable. It felt like you could actually be part of it. Crusty Demons built a new system. It proved a tour could sell out arenas without traditional sponsors. It created a media template that brands still copy today. Riders learned to build their own identities outside factory contracts. It forced the entire industry to evolve. Safety improved. Corporate marketing shifted to match this new audience. The video didn't just capture a moment. It built a structure that changed motocross forever. So tell me, when did you realize motocross had changed for good? Was it the first time you saw a backflip, or the moment you realized riders like Deegan were building their own brands? Drop a comment with one Crusty era clip or moment that still defines the sport for you. If you want to see where this story goes next, the next chapter is waiting. Thanks for watching, and stay wicked.